What's going on, guys? Good morning. Welcome back to United View. Hope everyone is doing very well. Welcome back to another edition of the Morning View. Hope everyone is doing good on this Wednesday morning, May 10th. And there's plenty to talk about this morning, folks. Yes, indeed. We're going to be talking about David De Gea agreeing a new contract. Terms have been agreed. We're just waiting for sign-off from Manchester United before they announce this deal. It's as good as done, according to some reports. We'll talk about that. We'll get your reaction to it. Pretty interesting, isn't it, that it comes after the weekend when all of this discussion's going on about David De Gea. Will he, won't he? Will he get a new contract? Won't he get a new contract? Should he get a new contract? Shouldn't he get a new contract? Should we go for a new goalkeeper? Hey, I'm feeling the breathing on the back of my neck from other goalkeepers. Sign that new contract. Yes, get that contract done. So we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking else. What we're going to be talking about, other goalkeeping possible targets still. Onana. What's his name? Onana. We're going to be talking about Goncalo Ramos. Manchester United possibly making a record-breaking fee or record-breaking bid for Ramos in the summer. Talk a little bit about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer this morning. Yes, if I could turn back time, Cher once said. That's what we're going to do today. We're not going to sing the song, obviously. That would be terrible at 9:04 in the morning. But we are going to talk about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer because he's done an interview. And in the interview, he's spoken about Michael Carrick and Kieran McKenna, both of whom have actually gone on to find considerable success outside of Manchester United in lower league clubs, it must be said. Kieran McKenna getting Ipswich promoted to the Championship. Michael Carrick, I think, finished what? He definitely finished in the playoffs with Middlesbrough. He still might get promoted to the Premier League. So Solskjaer's been talking about that. Diogo Dalot's been talking about Diogo Costa, going back to goalkeepers. So we're going to be talking about that too. I've got a fun clip this morning. Yeah, what you guys didn't see. People are still to this, even now, they're talking about FIFA yesterday. I think yesterday's FIFA stream was an all-timer. Now, I wasn't there for a lot of it. I was doing my director of football duties externally. I was in meetings. I'm trying to find funding for a new stadium. I'm trying to find sponsors for a new training ground. You know, they've burnt through a lot of cash already. Flagy. They've burnt through a lot of cash. I was outside doing external meetings. But yesterday's FIFA stream, we went through a litany of emotions. They went through joy, despair, up and down, up and down. Towards the end, though, I think they found it. I think they found their recipe. I think they found their mojo. But what happened after the camera stopped rolling is the FIFA playing continued. And I've got some exclusive footage. I'm not sure what that was. Exclusive footage this morning of the aftermath of when I had a game of FIFA, or several games of FIFA, against Just Josh Media. Yeah, so stay tuned for that. Now, I'll get your comments up on the screen. Usually I have this thing that gets your comments up on the screen, and just as I pressed live, it broke. So let me just fix this as well. So if I'm a bit flustered, that's why. Here we go. We can get your comments up on the screen as well. All Elite says, Ole as manager was whack, but I will forever love him for the memories he gave me as a player. 20 Ole legend flag. It worked. You know what I mean? Tony says, will United View be on tour in the US, hoping on meeting you guys? Zoom. I mean, it's different when I do it because obviously they have the thing where they can reach and then the Zoom comes in. For me, I have to physically lean and it's very invasive of your personal space, I feel like. So Zoom. If I just say Zoom, then we can do that. Micron, one of our members, says, good morning, Owen. Good morning, Micron. Thank you for joining us as well. Daniel Luciano says Rihanna and Cher reference in the first minute, going to be a great show. Oh, yes. Yeah, it's going to be a good one, certainly. And Manish says that FIFA stream was therapy for both of them. It's an eye-opener, really, isn't it? Let's be honest, because I think you see both of them in a different light. We saw competitive Fleck, maybe we should call him. You know, he will throw his toys out the pram like nobody's business. And he was doing that on another level yesterday, certainly, wasn't he? He was throwing his toys out the pram. And KG is the eternal optimist. Believe. We can't give up. No, we've got to find our level. I'm not changing anything. It's just, I mean, again, if you haven't watched it, go and check out the FIFA stream yesterday. It's like 3 hours long. I mean, if you take out the first 20 minutes, I think, because we were on the waiting screen, which, by the way, lots of people say, oh, why that? Because it's across both YouTube and Twitch. And then when you go live on Twitch, you have to go on a holding screen until you're ready. It's a whole thing. That's why. So skip past like the first 20 minutes and eventually we'll cut them off. Usually we cut off the opening straight away, but we have noticed that YouTube gets a bit funny with like syncage when that happens and people are talking out of sync like a kung fu film. So we've left it for a while, but we will cut off that first bit. So go and check it out. That's my point. Hey, let's have a look at the news this morning. David De Gea, new contract. Well, Statman Cam was a very unhappy man yesterday afternoon when the news came out that David De Gea has agreed the terms of his new contract at Manchester United to stay beyond the current season. This comes from Mike McGrath from the Daily Telegraph, and it must be said it's not just him now reporting it. In addition to the Telegraph, Sky Sports News, and they don't run with anything unless they're pretty certain that it's credible, and they take a while to run with it. They were running with it last night too, saying that talks are progressing, maybe not going as far as what Mike McGrath was saying, that the terms have been agreed, but they were saying terms are progressing or contract talks are progressing between Manchester United and David De Gea. But once again, Mike McGrath saying that David De Gea has agreed the terms of his new contract at Manchester United to stay beyond the current season. It continues. The framework of David De Gea's new deal, with a lower basic salary and incentives for matches played and performances in competitions, has been negotiated and is waiting to be signed off by Manchester United before an announcement is made. So that's really the key thing. I mean, when you see that first part that says, oh, he's agreed to the terms to stay at Manchester United beyond the current season, you still say, well, he's agreed to it. There's still a little bit to go there. But when you really get into the nitty-gritty of this story, from the Telegraph, they're saying it's done. It's just waiting on Manchester United to sign it off before an announcement is made. So realistically, now it's about timing. When do Manchester United want to drop this news, drop this bomb, if KG was here, kaboom, that David De Gea is staying? Because David De Gea is staying. This is what I was saying during the full view on Monday when Flex asked me about it, is that whilst I don't disagree that I think at this stage, like I do think we need to be looking at alternatives. I do think we need to be looking at options. He's staying. Like, he is staying. That's why I found it quite surprising when that report came out from Samuel Luckhurst on Monday from the Manchester Evening News, and he was saying that there's doubts within United that he could be the number one moving forward or long-term number one, which with all of these reports you have to look at the words that are being used and you have to look at the terminology specifically. Now, obviously, part of that report then went on to say there were doubts or reservations about offering him a new contract. And I thought when he said that at the time, I thought, that seems quite far-fetched because clearly they've been negotiating for a while. And it would seem surprising for them just to completely pull the rug after that game at the weekend. Go, actually, you know what, we're going in a different direction. But I don't think this contract necessarily says he's going to be the number one, because this is what it goes on to say. Staying at Manchester United may not guarantee a first-team place for David De Gea. It remains possible that Manchester United will sign a new goalkeeper or give Dean Henderson another try in the summer. Of course, Henderson's just had surgery, but he'll be on his way back to United in the summer. He's, I think he's got 3 years left on his contract. What did he sign? A 5-year deal a couple of years ago, I think it was. 2021, summer of 2021, something like that. So he's got 2 or 3 years left on a contract at Manchester United. So a decision there has to be made. But then that's when you get into the territory once again. If he signed a new contract, David De Gea, and again, we don't know how much. All that we know is that it's a lower basic salary than he's currently on. But the rumours have been around 200. If it's 200, he's still the highest paid goalkeeper in the Premier League. Now, yes, we are dealing with the sins of the past there, because when you're on 375, going down to 200, it's a big drop-off. But it's still the most out of any goalkeeper. And I do think, given what we have seen this season, particularly in the areas that Ten Hag wants to go, can you really have the highest paid goalkeeper in the Premier League as your number two, as your backup option? There's something in me that feels a bit uncomfortable with that, honestly. Now, I do appreciate and I do like the part, to be honest, where they say, look, just because you're staying doesn't mean we're not going to go for another keeper, or doesn't mean that someone like Dean Henderson, we might give another go. I know people were going to say, Henderson the snake, because he did the interview with TalkSport and he slagged off United and he did this, that and the other. I didn't like the interview that he did with TalkSport. I don't think it was as disrespectful as some people were saying. What I didn't like of it was the arrogance out of it, of this entitlement of I basically deserve to be the number one because I was promised it by a former manager, by the way. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is not the manager of Manchester United anymore. So why in Erik ten Hag's eyes should he listen to any promise that was made to Dean Henderson by Ole Gunnar Solskjaer? That is a ludicrous logic that he's going through. But at the same time, if I was Dean Henderson, I would think to myself, you know what, actually, I've got an opportunity here. I do. I've got 3 years left on my deal. I know that I could maybe want to go elsewhere and I want to be number one. But at the same time, if I come back and I go on the tour and I do okay and Ten Hag sees that maybe the team functions better with me, I've got an opportunity there. And we don't know how long De Gea's new contract is. I would assume it's probably for a couple of years, maybe. But I don't know how I feel about this one. Again, part of me feels like with all of the noise going on with De Gea at the moment, honestly, it just felt like maybe the right time to go in a separate direction. And already, my feeling is that there's going to be this big debate about within United from like a PR point of view or a social media point of view of when do we even make this announcement with De Gea? Because there's going to be a backlash. There is. There's going to be a backlash from some. Some will celebrate it, and some will say deserved, and some will say legend. And David De Gea is a Manchester United legend. And this is where you get into people being reactionary. He's not a legend. Get him out of the club. He's rubbish. He was never good. Let's park that to the side, okay? David De Gea, he's got, the most clean sheets of any Manchester United goalkeeper ever. He's been with the club for over a decade. He has won a lot at United. He has. Whether it's a Premier League, whether it's a Europa League, whether it's an FA Cup, a League Cup, he's won everything domestically. The only thing missing is the Champions League for David De Gea. And you could say, it's only, but it's over 10 plus years. But he's a legend of the club. So there will be people that will celebrate him getting a new deal. There will be some that will be like, this is the problem. This is why we're not progressing. This is why we're going backwards. It's sentiment. We're stagnating. So all of that, United have to think about, when's the right time to do it? Because it's not the right time. If they announce this today, Dave stays, people would be like, come, read the effing room. He just dropped a clanger at the weekend. He's dropped a couple of clangers recently too. That's a problem. But even the fact that they're having to debate when's the right time to drop it, doesn't that speak to a bigger issue? That speaks to a bigger problem. That speaks to, this might not be the most universal or popular decision. And again, that says a lot about it as well. So, but again, I think this goes back to, I really do, my feeling is that if the takeover was completed at this point and Erik ten Hag knew what his budget was this coming summer, I think there'd be an entirely different conversation around David De Gea right now, internally. My feeling is that how much money do I have to spend this summer? You've got about 100 million, FFP dependent. Right, I got 100 million. I know player sales, we can maybe raise it to 150 or whatever, but that's dependent on us doing good sales and doing good business, which United historically haven't done. So I know guaranteed I've got 100 million. I need a striker. I desperately, this team needs a striker. You look at this season, our goal scoring is awful. It's terrible. It's one of, in the top half, I think there's maybe 2 teams that have scored less goals than Manchester United. You look at the XG chart, we said yesterday during the morning view with Flex and myself, saying that only, 3 teams have got a worse, are underperforming their XG more than we are. We're creating chances, we just can't score. Had we had a striker that could score 20 plus goals, we'd probably already have qualified for the Champions League. That's the difference this season. We need a striker. And if Ten Hag's thinking that, he's going, I've got to do that business first. That is the priority. I have to do that business. David De Gea, yes, is not ideal for how I want to play. I want my keeper to be better with distribution. I want my keeper to be better with his feet. I want my keeper to be more press resistant. But at the same time, if I've got a striker that can score goals and is clinical, then against West Ham, we probably come back and maybe win that game. Against Brighton, minimum, we get a draw. Because that's really been the difference. In some of these games this season, these big away defeats, how many goals have we scored? 0. whether it's Brighton, whether it is West Ham, whether it's Newcastle, whether it's whoever, we're just not scoring enough goals. So if he had a bigger budget, then maybe he would say, I've got enough budget for a striker, and then I'll look for a goalkeeper, because that is a priority that is clearly rising. And it is. And the proximity of De Gea's contract forces United into a decision. And unfortunately, I guess in his mind, the decision that he's got to make is, I got to get a striker first. And if that's all I can do this summer, then De Gea's got to stay. That's the problem. Now, there might be creative ways around it, as I mentioned, where, Dean Henderson comes back and he's a bargaining chip to bring another goalkeeper in. I said before, David Raya, give him some money, and Dean Henderson. They get a goalkeeper that's half decent, and they get some money too. For a goalkeeper that's got a year left on his contract, that ain't bad. But sometimes football doesn't work like that. I see that a lot on social media. Let's swap this guy for that guy. Remember when we did it last summer with Ajax? Oh my goodness me. And it even took the We Talk Ajax guys to say, we don't want your players. Stop offering these swap deals. Remember last season when we were going, yeah, give him this player for that player and then some money. And they went, no, we don't want players from you. We would prefer money. And most of the time they probably would. And I've seen people doing the add up, sell him for this one, sell him for that one, and then we get this amount of money together. Again, football doesn't really work like that sometimes, unfortunately. So again, there might be creative ways around it, and Ten Hag might want to have a look at Henderson this summer. He might just want to do that, and maybe that's good for De Gea as well. Let's face it, the backups that De Gea has had this season, they're not pushing him, are they? Jack Butland's come in. He's on the bench. He's not going to stick around. Martin Dubravka came in. What was he there for? And every time he did play, everyone went, oh my God, Dubravka. I mean, even Marcel was like Dubravka in, and Marcel was Marcel. But the point being is maybe you do need a Henderson, even if he's not the ideal of what we're looking for in the future, but someone to push him, and then someone that, if De Gea, this is the thing too, De Gea made that mistake at the weekend against West Ham. He made the mistakes against Sevilla. There is no chance of David De Gea being dropped to play Wolves at home. One, because it's an important game, but two, because the drop-off is so big. If Henderson was there, maybe that would be an option of actually the person to come in isn't that bad. So, I don't know. We'll put a poll in the chat in just a second. Let me get to some of these super chats first. First one's from Amanor. Here we go. Amanor says, Owen, has David De Gea been told he will be number 1 or number 2 goalkeeper? Well, as I just said, according to reports, I don't know. But according to reports, he's been given no assurances that he's going to be the number 1. And I don't think anyone should have those, like I said, assurances. The only thing is, like I said, it's just, if you're going to take a wage cut, but you're still going to be the highest paid goalkeeper in the Premier League, it would just be so typical United. Who's the highest paid keeper in the Premier League? What club's he at? United. Does he play? No. What a waste of money by that point. But that's kind of par for the course. You've got people like Jadon Sancho, who's one of the highest paid players at all in the Premier League, and he's not a guaranteed starter. He struggles to make it into the first team most weeks. Most of the time he's starting on the bench. But those are the sins of the past, and that's part of this De Gea conversation too, is that he should have never got a £375,000 a week contract in the first place. Even when he was at his peak, was he really worth that amount? Probably not. And you think, when was he given that contract? 2015? After the whole debacle about going to Real Madrid and then the fax machine and all that kind of stuff. But that's 2015. 375k a week in 2015 to now, like, because of inflation and how football's evolved and transfer fees and that. How much would 375k in 2015 equate to now in football wages in 2023? A lot. A lot. Or maybe did he sign a different contract before then? You can let me know. The Real Game of Death. Whoa, that is a heck of a name, that is. Get the Glazers out forever. 2018, Owen. 2018. Yes, from Markey. So even in then, 2018 to now, 5 years, 375k to now, it'd be in the 400s at least, wouldn't it, right? It'd be at least. Oh, my goodness me. 2018. It's shambles, really, isn't it? It really is. It is, and it always, and this is the problem. This is how badly run United have been too. is that we've been so badly run from a wages point of view and a transfer point of view that we're going to be dealing with these issues for years to even try and get out of them. We're going to be dealing with this for such a long time. I mean, there was a story in the summer, wasn't there, saying that we owe, is it something like £1 billion in transfer fees installments? Because obviously that's how a lot of the transfer fees are done. They're spread out over time. Amortization. Shout out Todd Bowley. That we owe so many of these transfer fees as well. It's just, it's nuts. Simon says, the sins of the past always seem to infect our future. Glazes out always. Let's see what some of you guys are saying here. Al Mac says, we need proper scouting and lower our wage structure. De Gea, 375k. Sancho, 350k. Anthony, 200k. Maguire, 200k. Phil Jones, 80k per week. Well, obviously, Phil Jones is going to be leaving. But I have seen a lot of discussion about that over the last few days, talking about Anthony's wages and Harry Maguire's wages and how that they were earning, what was it? Was Anthony on like 20k or something like that? Or it was like, both of them were like 20 to sort of 60k, something like that, at Leicester and Ajax respectively. And they go to, like, as you mentioned, hundreds of thousands of pounds a week. Meanwhile, at these other clubs, obviously, when they sign them, they'll get a bump up in their wages, but not to like that level. And realistically, the reason they get that is because agents who are negotiating those fees know that they can get them from United. They know they're a soft touch. They know they're a pushover. And also they know that other people at the club have got them. So then it becomes a situation of, well, and then, to be honest, you look at those two, particularly the Anthony one, we were desperate. Like we went in really late. We overpaid for the transfer fee. And then to get the deal done quickly, we'll give you what you want. Let's bring you in. And at the time we were struggling with a poor start to the season as well. So we were panicking. So, and again, because of that, we're always having to deal with that. And there's always going to be people. That's why it was almost farcical when that report came out last year about Ten Hag wanting to get a control over the wage structure, which is the right thing to do. But there was the story, wasn't there, that was it the 200k wage cap that was going to be implemented at United. And I think it was a show of Flex myself, and we were saying that's never going to be done properly. That is never going to be implemented at United. Already, you've got so many people that are above that, and people that we're actively trying to keep to contracts. So when how can you implement us 200k a week? How much is Marcus Rashford on at the moment? I think he's on 200 plus, and we're actively trying to sign him to a new long-term deal. He's going to go above that. You've already broken your wage structure. You've just signed people that are on more than 200. Casemiro's on more than 200. So that 200k a week was never going to happen, and but it does need to be rectified. It does need to be sorted. And even if we're purchased by Qatar, by Sheikh Jassim, that doesn't mean you should be, taking the piss out of every time you get into a negotiation, because people like Newcastle and Man City aren't. In fact, for what it's worth, some of the City players aren't on astronomical wages. I know people like Haaland, etc. But you look at people like Edison. Edison's earning less than David De Gea, even on his new contract, his improved contract. How does that work? That's part of the problem too. And I don't know if you guys watched that semi-final last night between Man City and Real Madrid. For me, City are going through. 1-1 at the Bernabeu. And this was my concern with that, is as soon as I saw the draw, that the second leg was at the Etihad, I went, pfft. And I know that's what Real Madrid does, and I know it's Real Madrid's competition, and when they went 1-0 up, people were going, see, I told you, this is what Real Madrid does in the Champions League, this is what they do. Even when they were 1-0 up, Real Madrid, I went, that ain't enough. That is not enough. They will go to the Etihad, and Erling Haaland can score a hat-trick in about 15 minutes. So for me, City going through to that final, that is it. They're going through to that final, and then you have to hope about a one-off game in a final against one of the Milan teams, but one of the Milan teams is going to be massive underdogs, huge underdogs in that final, regardless of who gets through. And then we've got to face them in the FA Cup final. Manish says, City got away with it, don't count your chickens. But it's an away performance in the Champions League. Again, I think for me, it's just in these semi-finals. I mean, you saw it when Real Madrid played City before. The second leg was at the Bernabeu, wasn't it? And they had that great comeback. It's because whatever team has that second leg at home, it's just... I mean, even we kind of saw it against Barcelona. We remember with how poor we've been playing recently, we forget we beat Barcelona, but it's not as if Barcelona weren't trying in that Europa League tie. But the second leg being at Old Trafford, we even went 1-0 down and we came back. We can't do that at the moment. But when you're in those European ties, when you've got that second leg at home and you're still within it, anything's possible. You never know, because Real Madrid, that's their competition. But for me, City at the Etihad with this team. I know obviously in the past, they had the second leg was at the quarterfinal against Spurs, and Spurs came back, but that was even different because it was away goals at the time, wasn't it? Nowadays that would go to extra time. So I don't hold out a lot of hope for that one. But I was going to put a poll in the chat, wasn't I? And be sure to smash a like on the like button. We've got over 600 people watching, just over 100 likes. I'll put in, are you happy with the new De Gea contract? Poll is in the chat. Yes, polls in the chat. Get your votes in and also get your comments in, because I do want to talk about this a little bit more before we move on to some other subjects this morning. So get some of your comments in and I'll get them up on the screen as well. And Love says, watch this poll get more votes than likes. Well, if that happens, it would be a disgrace. It would be, some would say, a cheat. I've also seen some people in the comments say, the disgrace and cheat thing is getting old. It's not even a thing. If you're around any of us in real life, particularly Josh, and I guess by proxy now myself and Flex and KG, it's not even a thing. This is just how they're talking. How we're talking now. It's completely gone into the zeitgeist. Yeah, it's infected all of us. So there you go. DJ's in the chat. Big up DJ. Says Owen. DJ, I am not happy, but without an owner, it's possible any transfer business will be slightly delayed. David De Gea is on the agenda to be moved out of United, but just not yet. And that's kind of what I was saying earlier on, wasn't it, DJ? That I do feel like had this takeover been completed, or if there was confirmation as to actually how much money is available, then maybe there would have been more movement on this. But it's not to say that De Gea, again, is definitely going to be the number one next season, because that's still a possibility. Again, Henderson coming back. We'll talk about another goalkeeper in just a second. What's his name? Onana. And again, David De Gea is available in the summer, so there are certainly options. Already in the chat, there's already nearly 150 votes. And to be honest, it's quite close. The question was, are you happy with the new De Gea contract? 49% say yes, 51% say no. So certainly a bit of a divisive issue. Interesting. A divisive issue too. I did see someone say Flay out, Mina in, which is, of course. Speaking of, though, goalkeepers, that was it. Diva said, Flay out, we need Warsal and Queen. Get the Warsals in the chat, as always. Members, which there are so many members. Oh, by the way, too, I think I'm allowed to make this announcement. If not, tough shit. But members, now, obviously, if you join the UV Members Club, there are so many perks. Obviously, you get exclusive access to UV Raw, a behind-the-scenes look at the day-to-day goings-on at United View. New episode coming out, I think either today or tomorrow. There's a new episode coming out very soon. The last one, Marcel Madness, I think is the best episode we've ever done. Obviously, you also get members priority chat. You get all of the emojis, which are in the chat, which Joe Divas there, Joe Blackman with the Warsals. Yeah, Warsals in the chat. You get all of those emojis. New emojis coming soon. Ed, got all of them up there. Perfect. There you go. But a new perk is coming to the members club. I wish I had a drum roll. If you are a member of United Views Members Club, the full-time view is going to be accepting call-ins. Yes, it's going to become a call-in show. Yeah, we're going to have, obviously, people on the full-time view, myself, sometimes Kenny, sometimes whoever. But one part of it is it's going to be a call-in show, and the people that are going to be allowed to call in are members. So when the match finishes at the weekend, for instance, Wolves at the weekend, there will be a link sent to the members and they'll be able to call in and give their thoughts on the match that just happened. Just another perk. of the UV Members Club. Yes, so not only have you got exclusive content, you get exclusive access to live shows, being the full-time view. So that's coming this weekend, that's starting. And again, I'm not even sure if I'm allowed to make that announcement. I'm pretty sure I am. If not, it's happened. So I'm doing it this weekend. So yes, that is another perk. So if you do want to get involved in that, again, you can join the UV Members Club too. And all of the emojis can come in too. So that's very, very exciting. Ed says, Owen, it's a big risk letting the reckless delegates come on live. Hey, it's a risk we're willing to take. Yeah. So that's going to be a lot of fun, and again that begins this weekend, full-time view after the Wolves game, Manchester United versus Wolves at Old Trafford, 3 p.m. kickoff. So the full-time view will be going live about 5:30ish, most likely, something like that. So yes, big announcement there. And for that announcement, click a like on the like button. Actually, let's have a look at how many likes we're on. We are currently on less than 150. Well, I'm not going to go on strike just yet. I'm going to give you time to build that up. But I'm watching the like button. Speaking of goalkeepers too, Gianluca Damasio, that is, has said that Manchester United and Chelsea are interested in Inter Milan's Andre Onana. Inter wants at least 50 million euros to sell him. This has been a story that's continuing to sort of linger around. Onana, by the way. What's his name? Onana. I've done it 3 times. It's not even funny anymore. But there's history and baggage there with Onana and Ten Hag. Obviously, Onana was at Ajax, and then he had the suspension. He came back. He was going to Inter Milan. Then he got dropped. But then some people were saying, well, that wasn't really Ten Hag falling out with Onana. That was Onana falling out with Ajax, not necessarily Ten Hag. I just don't think, honestly, as I said, that we're talking about budgets. Our budget's going to be in place, and how much money does Ten Hag have to spend? Blah blah blah. Then we're talking about, he's going to spend 50 million euros on Onana. I don't even think he knows he has that to spend on a goalkeeper. And if he did, 50 million euros is basically 40 million quid, is it not, for David Raya? So why wouldn't you just go for David Raya in that instance? So I don't really buy into that story that much, honestly. I think that, again, I wouldn't be surprised if he goes to Chelsea, and certainly it would appear that he might be leaving Inter Milan come the summer, because this story about his availability has been floating around quite a bit. So anything's possible, but I don't really see that one, it must be said. I'm a bit no. Now, as I mentioned, when it comes to strikers in the summer, that's the big priority, isn't it? That's the priority. Get a striker. We've been linked to Harry Kane. We've been linked to Victor Osimhen. But also, really since the World Cup, we've been linked to Benfica striker Goncalo Ramos, and the links continue, because yesterday, James Nursey, who's from The Mirror, was saying Manchester United are preparing to step up their interest in Goncalo Ramos with a potential record bid as part of a major summer rebuild. Now, again, I kind of go, this is when, for me, when these stories come out, I go, well, to me, this is pure speculation, because a major summer rebuild at the moment, with what? With what? What major summer rebuild? Again, we know we've got 100 million roughly for a striker. But major summer rebuild, that requires more than 100 million nowadays, especially for Man United. And I know selling players, maybe we can get it up. But with what? with what? Now, granted, you could say, well, maybe it's just 100 million that's put aside. But for Goncalo Ramos, I don't know. But James Nursey says a deal worth between £70 million and £100 million, including add-ons, is poised to be discussed between United and Benfica for Goncalo Ramos. Again, if that is the case, right? If that is the case, is that because the key strikers that we're looking for we can't get? Maybe that is the case. Because at this point, I almost think Victor Osimhen's already off the table. I mean, I would like to get Osimhen, obviously. He's had a fantastic season. But even I saw the Napoli president has been talking and, saying, we're definitely not going to sell Osimhen this summer. And everyone's got a price. As the $1 million man once said, Ted DiBiase, which, by the way, actually, probably don't say that at the moment. They're in quite a bit of trouble, the DiBiase family. But they think it's going to be like 130, 140, something like that. So that to me already feels like it's off the table, honestly. I don't see United spending 130, 140 million for Victor Osimhen. Or 150. That's crazy money. That's not happening. Harry Kane, I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Harry Kane. I don't think he actually knows at the moment. I think it depends on how we finish the season. If we do qualify for the top 4 and the takeover does happen, it's possible. And if we do finish in the top 4, I do think we'll maybe test the resolve of Spurs, put £100 million on the table and say, what are you thinking? Would you be interested? And as DJ says there, Harry Kane would have to push for the move himself, I think. But, he tried to do that before. That's kind of what makes me chuckle with some people with Kane. They go, well, he's the ultimate professional and all this kind of stuff. And he is. But let's not forget that he actively didn't show up to training when he wanted to go to Man City. Like, that was a thing. He was doing interviews with Gary Neville playing golf going, I just want to win things, So it's not out of the realm of possibility that he would try, at least, to sort of force through that move. Maybe. But at the moment, I don't know. Because if we don't get in the top 4, that move's not happening. There would be really no reason for him. I would think, if we bottled the top 4, say we finish 5th, I think he would look at the offers available to him and say, well, there's not really many offers. I'm going to sit out my contract for another year. I'll let that expire, and then I can go anywhere I want. The clubs don't have to worry about transfer fees. So if I do want to go to Bayern Munich, they don't have to worry about transfer fee. I can go there. If I want to stay in the Premier League and I want to go to Newcastle, which you cannot rule out Newcastle anymore. I was talking to Flex about this yesterday, actually. It is not out of the realm of possibility. Not this season, and I know they've got Isaac and they're quite fine for attacking options. But like next season on a free transfer, you cannot rule out Newcastle. You can't rule them out anymore. And it's kind of funny, isn't it, that people are looking at Newcastle as sort of this plucky underdog. And I guess because when they, last season, they were bottom of the league and then the money came in and Eddie Howe got them up to 10th. They are no longer the plucky underdog. They're the richest club in the world. They're going to be in the Champions League next season. They are something to be really concerned about, really worried about. And I also think Daniel Levy, when it comes to Harry Kane, he might think last chance saloon, because they're probably not going to get top 4 this season. And as soon as Harry Kane leaves the club, they are screwed. They are probably not getting top 4 for a while after that point. So he might think, Hail Mary, I get in a manager in the summer. I don't know who it would be. Some people saying Nagelsmann. Some people saying Xabi Alonso, who is doing a good job at Bayer Leverkusen. Harry Kane's there for one more year, and they hope that they qualify for top 4. The season goes well. Because the season goes well, Harry Kane says, yeah, I want to finish my career at Spurs, and signs a new contract. And it's a game of poker to Daniel Levy. And he might try that. And he might fail spectacularly, and then Kane leaves on a free. But he might be willing to take that risk. And involved in all of that is a Man United going, do we have enough money? Are we going to be in the top 4? That's part of the problem too. And if that is the case, then those two prime key targets, Kane and Osimhen, they suddenly go off the table. And then that is when you have to sort of look at Goncalo Ramos, 70 million, 100 million. And it's a risk, that one. I mean, he's had a good season at Benfica. Obviously, I think most people will look at it and say, because obviously he scored the hat-trick at the World Cup, and that's really when he sort of emerged on the global stage, if you will. But 70 to 100 million on him, there'll be an adjustment period. Is it going to really pay off? Every transfer is a gamble, I know as well. I don't know. I mean, again, I'm still, you know me, I've said this quite a few times. I don't understand. I really don't. The Harry Kane slander. People say, oh, it's just typical British bias. It's not British bias. Harry Kane is world class. Like, he just is. You know, any team in the world, and I've said this a million times, would take Harry Kane in their side. And then people go, not Man City, because they got Haaland. Before they had Haaland, they wanted Harry Kane, because he is world class. He scored 20 goals again this season in the Premier League. He's going to be the highest goal scorer in Premier League history, highest goal scorer in England history. And then people like to go, oh yeah, but penalties. Who gives a shit if they're penalties? They count. Like, that's one of the most bizarre arguments with anything with goal scorers for me, when they go, yeah, penalties. If penalties aren't allowed to count, let's just scrap penalties. If that's the case. Manchester United, the situation we're in this season, We can't score goals, and people are like, no, Harry Kane, he's too old. Too old. He's still doing it. He'll only be good for 3 seasons. That's fine. that 3 seasons is fine at the moment for me, you know. And to be honest, it'll be longer than that, and they'll go, there's no sell-on value. But I don't want to buy my striker for having sell-on value. Whoever it is, I want them to come to United and score a ton of goals because they've already paid for themselves. I know people say that's bad business, but I don't get it. I don't get the Harry Kane slander. I don't. And you know, if anything, honestly, here in the UK, he's underrated. And you know what the word? I think the thing is because he plays for Spurs. That's it. He plays for Spurs and he hasn't won anything. And they'll say, what's he won? But he plays for Spurs. Of course, he's not won anything. You know, the fact that they've come close is, you know, the fact they've come close, it speaks volumes. Spurs have come closer than us to winning a Champions League over the last 10 years or so. You know, I mean, Alex says here, you get 3 or 4 years buying Kane. Look at his game versus Benzema, for example. Yet he's still going. And again, for me, it's not, I don't worry about Kane's game dropping off dramatically because Kane's game isn't based on pace or anything like that. It's based on intelligence. It's based on dropping deep. He scores all types of goals, inside the box, outside the box, headers. He is a complete striker. And I also think about the stat I said yesterday, this season, that in terms of combined created chances between 2 players, second in the league is Harry Kane and Son, because their link up is spectacular and it's about even in terms of chances created. The people actually at the top were Bruno Fernandes and Marcus Rashford, and it's completely one-sided. Bruno Fernandes has made 33 chances for Marcus Rashford this season. Rashford's made 3 for Bruno, so it goes to 36. And I was thinking when I saw that, I went, can you imagine if Bruno Fernandes and Harry Kane played together? Like because the chances, the evidence is there. Bruno Fernandes makes you chances. He will make you minimum 2 or 3 big chances per game, or even half chances a game. And with a striker like Harry Kane, he scores at least one. At least one. It's like the Sancho and Haaland principle at Dortmund. People talk about all of the assists that Jadon Sancho got when he was at Dortmund. Well, it's when you give the ball to Haaland and he scores and it counts as an assist, that's probably why. And I saw that stat and I went, can you imagine if Harry Kane got that level of service from someone like Bruno Fernandes? That's just goals. You know, and if that is the case, again, that's the difference between us going, are we going to make top 4? Are we going to fall over the line? And us going, we've already got it. We had it a few weeks ago. So I know people will have their opinions on it, I'm sure. We're 10 likes away from 200. Cab says, Owen, bring on Mike Phelan, the UV family, and smashing the likes. Wow. I do have something else I want to talk about. Before we talk about Ole and his interview that he's done, I do want to show you some exclusive footage. Not only am I bringing you announcements this morning, I'm bringing you exclusive footage. So as I mentioned yesterday, there was the FIFA stream, FIFA with Flex and KG, every Tuesday. And lots of people enjoy it. They are marathon shows as well. Again, yesterday's one is like 3 hours long. So if you've got 3 hours and you just want a bit of background noise, watch that. It's tremendous. You've got Flex and KG doing their United career mode. You've got the now co-directors of football, myself and Josh. But sometimes, as is always the case here at United View, some of the most entertaining stuff is the stuff that doesn't happen on camera or doesn't happen on stream. So yesterday, and I believe all of this will be coming out in a future episode of UV Raw. Yesterday, after the FIFA stream had ended, we continued playing FIFA, and I had a game against Flex, and we drew the first one, and he beat me the second time. I think it was 2-1 the second time. And by the way, I hadn't played FIFA. I hadn't picked up a console controller in easily, what year is it? 2023. Easily 5 years I haven't picked up a controller. Legitimately, 5 years I haven't picked up a controller, right? I drew a Flex and then I lost 2-1. Afterwards, I played Josh, and we've got some footage of the aftermath of me playing Josh. Take a look at this and enjoy. Well, Josh.
Oh, good. You've
count
got
them. 3 consecutive.
Three times. I'm not going to lie. I got disgraced and cheated because the first goal that he scored in this, it was clearly a foul. Yeah. Was it not a foul?
Well, I think also as well, you forgot at the end that it was actually the end of the match.
Oh yeah, that was right.
Josh went, wait, what?
I thought, because it went to extra time, I thought it was the first half. Ah, now
Disgrace cheat.
I'm just going to play by myself.
Yes, well.
Look, he's not even a computer player. I'm just going to figure out buttons.
Look at him. Defeated.
Well, it was a fun day. It was a fun day yesterday. It was tremendous. And again, all of that is going to be coming out in a future episode of UV Raw. Yeah, a lot of fun. I enjoyed that. And you know what it was as well? Is we played the games, and one of them, I was winning 4-0 or 5-0. I forget what it was. And Flex came in and told Josh that you got to stop, mate. And it got quite awkward, to be honest. Yeah. And All Elite says Josh's excuse is worse than Flex. Flex, it's never his fault. It's always the controller's fault. Our controller's broken. I'm not sure what's going on with the controller. What's going on with the controller? I'm not sure. I don't know what's going on. Diva says disgracing a cheat. As Mafodu says there, disgracing a cheat. Yeah. It was a lot of fun, and again, that's coming out in a future episode of UV Raw. So, just another perk if you're part of the members club. A reminder with the announcement today: not only do you get exclusive access to UV Raw, not only do you get members priority chat, not only do you get the emojis and just exclusive members content that's coming. Obviously, we do live Q&As too. Another one of that is coming soon. But also, you then get access to call in on the full-time view as well. So look at that. Look at all you get to be part of the UV members club. An update on the poll in the chat. We've got nearly 400 votes. It's been in the chat for about 20 minutes now. And the question was, are you happy with the new De Gea contract? 54% say yes, 46% say no. So as of right now, the yeses are winning it. They're happy with David De Gea's new contract. Again, we don't have an actual figure on terms of the wage or how much he's going to be earning. It is going to be a lower base salary. There are going to be incentives for matches played and competitions. It's been agreed by all accounts. It's just waiting for sign off from Manchester United and then an announcement to be made. That's interesting. Again, certainly interesting. As I said, it's a divisive topic. Now, I do want to talk about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. He's done an interview this morning with Andy Mitten, and it must be said, he's not really said anything salacious about United or anything like that. He did say as part of his kind of exit interview, United, didn't he, that he wasn't going to do all these tell-all interviews. He wasn't going to be slagging off the club or anything like that. But he has spoken about his former assistants, being Kieran McKenna and Michael Carrick, who have gone on to experience success in their own managerial careers this season at Middlesbrough and Ipswich, respectively. Of course, Middlesbrough, they're in the playoffs in the Championship. Ipswich, they got promoted to the Championship. So Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was asked about Kieran McKenna, and he said, quote, Kieran would have unit meetings with the players and go through videos. He was more focused on when the team didn't have possession, whereas Michael Carrick, was about when the team did have possession. Kieran is still young, yet experienced. I played against him in the final of the Reserve League in 2006. Spurs at Old Trafford. We won 2-0. I scored on Gerard Piqué. Not bad, eh? He was talking about Carrick, and he said, and this is probably the biggest headline from it, I am 100% sure that Michael will be the manager of Manchester United if he wants to be. After 10 days, Michael came to me and said, I don't want to do this. We were in it together, and we were no longer together. I took it as a compliment because I had the utmost respect for him. So, a couple of things there. First of all, again, congratulations to both Michael Carrick and Kieran McKenna. In their post-United careers, they've gone on to have success, and I think their ceiling is higher. I think both, let's be honest, both could be Premier League managers in the future. No doubt about it. Carrick's done a fantastic job at Middlesbrough. He's really turned them around, and he still might be a Premier League manager next season. So credit to him for that. As for will he be the manager of Manchester United if he wants to be, well, maybe that might be a long way in the future, because here's hoping that Ten Hag is sticking around for a long time, and the reason he's sticking around for a long time is because he brings success for a long period of time. Maybe Carrick might be the man to replace Ten Hag in 10 years, or maybe longer than that, right? I don't know. But certainly he's showing signs of being a good manager. But it's one thing to be a good manager or a good coach. It's another thing to be Manchester United manager. And we've gone through the whole period of they understand the ethos of the club because they used to play for the club and they played with the club for so long and this, that and the other. No, they have to be good enough. They have to be good enough and they have to show that they're good enough. As of right now, Michael Carrick's on his journey. Who knows where that will take him? Again, it's quite interesting that Solskjaer says that after 10 days being the interim manager, he said, I can't do this. I can't do this if you're not here. It doesn't feel right to be here if you're not here, so I'm not going to do it. Which is, to be fair, most likely the truth, because Ralph Rangnick did want to keep Michael Carrick around. Of course, Carrick was the caretaker manager, and he did a good job as caretaker manager, didn't he? He got, a point at Stamford Bridge, and this is when Chelsea were good. Actual Thomas Tuchel's good Chelsea. And then he went away to Villarreal, got a win, and he beat Arsenal at Old Trafford, undefeated. Like he did, and he had they're hard games. But going away to Chelsea and then going away to Villarreal and Arsenal at home, that ain't easy. Now I know this season that's completely different, really, isn't it? Because Arsenal are top of the league, competing for the title. Chelsea are in the bottom half, and Villarreal aren't what they were, even though. But the point being is that again, it's not. He did a good job during his time there, and Ralph Rangnick did want to keep him around. He did. I mean, Ralph Rangnick said it himself in the press conferences. I wanted to keep him around, but Carrick said he didn't want to do it. He said he wanted time off, he wanted a break, and he didn't feel right doing it there without Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. So I give Michael Carrick credit. At a time which United were in complete free-fall, we did stabilise. And honestly, I will ask you this in the chat, and you can let me know. Last season, would there have been any difference to how the season played out if it was Michael Carrick as the interim manager instead of Ralph Rangnick? Now, again, say Erik ten Hag was always going to come in, I think. I don't know if he was the number one choice, but he was certainly in that conversation. It was him and Poch, and United clearly had a plan to the end of the season. There's going to be an interim, there's going to be a caretaker, but we're getting in someone. We're not doing the Ole thing again where the interim becomes permanent, all that kind of stuff. But do you think there would have been a difference in how last season played out if Carrick had remained to the end of the season instead of Rangnick? Because Carrick was a guy that people liked, and maybe he wouldn't have to have completely dissolved the coaching staff, and maybe it wouldn't have got as toxic. I don't know. Maybe it would have been better, but towards the end of the season, that place was so toxic. The dressing room was toxic. The players had clearly given up. They didn't care. They didn't like the training. I don't think they liked the backroom staff. I think it probably would have been a difference because people liked Michael Carrick, and that's what it had come down to, really, is whether the players were really enjoying themselves. Forget that they should be putting in their everything because it's United and it's work, but I think he would have maybe got a little bit more out of them. That's not to say we would have got top 4 or anything like that because the season was what it was, but I don't know. I'm not sure. Imran says more points, yes. John says yes. Kristen says yes. Love says probably better results, but the club was a mess top to bottom. United always needed someone with experience to come and steady the ship for the long term, which I agree. I mean, there's not to say that he was going to stay and he was going to take on Ten Hag, but I think he'd have probably got more, honestly, than Rangnick did out of that team. Because also as well, you remember that Rangnick came in and tried to implement a system that was never going to work with that group of players. The fabled Gegenpress of 20 minutes or 22 minutes, whatever it was, against Crystal Palace at home. The only time we saw United do a Gegenpress style under Ralph Rangnick was it the 4-2-2. 4-2-2 gives me nightmares at this point. It might have been. It's interesting to know what could have been there. And again, that's not to say that the end goal had to always be bring in Erik ten Hag or a permanent manager, but it's interesting to know what could have been in terms of the remainder of last season. So you never know. One to watch for the future. Finally, before we wrap things up, Diogo Dalot has been talking about Diogo Costa. We started with goalkeepers, so we'll end on talking about goalkeepers. Dalot did an interview where he spoke about Diogo Costa and actually revealed he's very close friends with him. He said, quote, "I grew up with him, Diogo Costa. He's my friend. There's a great relationship between us, and I know perfectly well that he has the capacity to one day be a world reference. I don't know if he'll be at Manchester United or another big club in Europe. He shows at Porto that he is a differential goalkeeper and has helped the club a lot. If he continues there, I'll be extremely happy. If he leaves, I hope he has the greatest success in the world." So Diogo Dalot is good friends with Diogo Costa. He picks up the phone, Maybe he says to Eric or John or Richard Arnold, "Hey, I know Diogo. I know him at Port. We're friends. Yeah, get on the phone. Make it happen. But again, with what money? That's the problem too. With what money? With what transfer budget? Ten Hag doesn't know what transfer budget. He doesn't know what's available to him. But maybe Dallo puts a call in. Maybe Dallo just says, hey, you know, there's a guy here I know. He'd be interested. No? I don't... Hey, Diogo. Pick up the phone to the other Diogo. And this goalkeeper thing is going to continue to be divisive. But let's just hope, what we do have to do when it comes to David De Gea, we have to back him and support him to the end of the season. Certainly, no doubt about it. As Marcel said, even Marcel, a staunch De Gea outer, I think was very, very spot on and was really succinct in what he was saying about David De Gea on Monday during the full view. And he could have come in and been, you know, the Nigel Farage, you all laughed at me, but he said, no, I feel like this has proved some of the points I've been trying to make. But we have to back De Gea still because we still need him. Between now and the end of the season, we're going to need him to make some of the saves he's been making this season, keep the clean sheets that he has been making this season, because we need to win our games. 3 out of 4, that's what's required. We've got 3 home games, 1 away games. We need to win 3 out of 4 to qualify for the Champions League. And De Gea is going to be a big part of that as well. So we've got to support him. We've got to back him. What his future looks like beyond the end of the season, it's looking like he's going to be sticking around. And obviously everyone can have their thoughts and opinions on it. I'm sure you'll let me know in the comment section below if you're watching after the fact or on future United View streams and shows. But we do need to back him to the end of the season because we need this team to win and we need this team to get in the Champions League to progress the next season. But I don't know. I don't know. We just got to get the win on Saturday. And I want it to be not just a 1-0 scrape win. I want it to be a momentum building performance. Fingers crossed. Anyway, guys, look, have a great Wednesday. We'll be back with more content very soon. And Saturday's rapidly approaching. I'm out of here. Peace.